Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're diving into a genuinely radical premise. Have you ever considered that the daily unhappiness, the stress and the frustration you might be feeling could actually be a deliberate choice? I know, it sounds absolutely crazy at first, but we're unpacking the insights from that wildly popular book, The Courage to be Disliked, by Ichio Kishimi and Fumitaka Koga. We're going to break down their central, really provocative argument that your happiness and your unhappiness is entirely in your own hands. All right, let's just dive right in and see how this all works.
Seriously, why would anyone choose to be unhappy? It creates this immediate cognitive dissonance, right? Naturally, our first instinct is to push back and say, no way, I would never choose this anxiety. I would never choose to feel insecure. But Kishimi and Koga argue that life really only seems incredibly complex because we actively make it so. They suggest that unhappiness isn't just something that randomly happens to you. It's actually a strategy you use to reach a hidden goal. And get this, that goal almost always involves other people.
Just listen to this incredibly bold premise from the authors. There is no such thing as worry that is completely defined by the individual. The shadows of other people are always present. According to them, every single problem we face in life, every internal worry, every lingering insecurity is fundamentally rooted in our interpersonal relationships. Literally all of them. Think about it. If you were the absolute only person in the universe, your worries would just vanish. Poof, gone. This means that to really understand our unhappiness, we have to look closely at how we're interacting with the people around us.
Which brings us to Section 1, the root of unhappiness, exploring Alfred Adler's theory.
So to figure out why our relationships cause us so much grief, we really need to look at the psychological framework Kishimi and Koga are using here. It comes from the renowned psychologist Alfred Adler. Now, Adler had a very different view of human behavior compared to someone like, say, Freud. He didn't believe in fixed personality traits at all. Instead, he used this concept of lifestyle. And just to be clear, your lifestyle here isn't about whether you hit the gym at 5 a.m. or eat avocado toast. It's the habits, the emotions, and the thoughts you chose at some point in your past and that you continue to choose today because you believe it's the best way to reach a specific goal. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is that your sense of self isn't just something you're born with and permanently stuck with. It's totally driven by the goals you set. If someone acts antisocial, for example, it's not because they have a fixed antisocial personality. It's because acting that way helps them achieve a very specific goal they've set for themselves. Moving on to Section 2, choosing your emotions and how we actually manufacture our feelings. Okay, this brings us to a massive paradigm shift. If our lifestyle is a choice designed to reach a goal, well, what about our feelings? The author suggests that we don't just passively experience emotions, we actually manufacture them on the spot to serve a very specific purpose. Let's walk through a classic job interview analogy. Imagine someone says they desperately want a new job, but they're so paralyzed by anxiety they can't even get themselves to attend the interview. They sit there thinking, oh, if only I didn't have this crippling anxiety, I could get the job. But Adlerian psychology flips this completely upside down. Look at step 1. Their true, hidden goal is simply to avoid the risk of failing or being rejected by that interviewer. Step 2. To achieve that goal, they subconsciously create the emotion of intense fear and anxiety. And step 3, the result is they skip the interview entirely. You see, the fear did its job perfectly. It protected them from the very real risk of rejection. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. This naturally leads people to ask about past trauma, right? Doesn't trauma dictate our future? Well, the authors take a really firm stance here. We are not determined by our experiences, but rather by the meaning we give those experiences to suit our present purposes. Two people can go through the exact same terrible event. One might use it as a reason to literally never trust anyone ever again, while the other might use it as fuel and motivation to help others who are struggling. The past doesn't dictate your future. You, living right here in the present moment, are the one who determines your own life. You have the agency. That takes us right into Section 3, the approval trap and the dangers of seeking validation. So, what exactly is this terrible, hidden goal that's making us all so unhappy? Well, it's seeking approval. We just care entirely too much about what other people think of us. Unhappy people tend to believe that being liked by others is what makes them a good person. But when you do this, you're essentially living according to someone else's expectations. You adopt their yardstick for what is good or bad, which, let's be honest, sounds utterly exhausting. You're just constantly monitoring how others view you. But making a positive impact? Now that is an entirely different approach. It's completely within your control and is a wonderfully free way to live. When you seek approval, you literally hand the keys to your happiness over to a total stranger. And the crazy part, seeking approval actually destroys the very relationships we're trying so hard to build. It's what we call the entitlement trap. Let's just trace this out for a second. Say you throw a massive surprise birthday party for a friend. You pat yourself on the back, telling yourself you're being an amazing friend, but underneath it all, you're secretly expecting profound gratitude, maybe even a better, more expensive party for your own birthday next month. So, when your friend inevitably doesn't reciprocate to your exact unspoken standards, deep resentment and frustration builds up. Why? Because that party wasn't really a gift at all. It was a transaction. You essentially sacrificed your time to buy their approval, and when they didn't pay up, you got angry. This kind of transactional mindset completely twists how we see the world around us. The unhappy view basically sees life as a zero-sum competition. Because approval's conditional, you're judged on being funny enough, smart enough, successful enough, other people's success suddenly becomes a massive threat. If they win, you look worse by comparison. You start viewing everyone else as rivals, secretly celebrating their failures. But the happy view, that recognizes that all humans have inherent value just by existing. You aren't in competition with anyone, and that is exactly what allows you to form healthy, truly supportive bonds with your community.
So let's look at Section 4, the joy of contribution, and why helping others matters.
How in the world do we break free from this absolutely exhausting competition? Well, the core tenet here is incredibly liberating. True happiness comes from genuinely believing that you are useful to someone. Happy people focus on helping others, and they don't do it as some selfless, miserable sacrifice, but for their own fulfillment. It just feels good to be useful. And as long as you genuinely believe you're contributing, you completely stop worrying about what others think of you. You get to define what being useful means, and you find immense joy in the contribution itself without expecting a round of applause or any reciprocation. Just think about the ultimate endgame of this mindset. The authors say, if one really has a feeling of contribution, one will no longer have any need for recognition from others. It makes sense, right? You don't need someone to constantly pat you on the back if you already know your own worth. Furthermore, you bring joy to others simply by existing. You don't have to be a billionaire or a superhero to have value. Realizing this allows you to just accept yourself fully. Imperfections, mistakes, the whole shebang. Your presence alone matters. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, the courage to be disliked and finding the ultimate freedom. To truly live this way, to actually step out of the endless competition and focus purely on contribution, there is a price to pay. Freedom is being disliked by others. I know, it's a really tough pill to swallow, but it is mathematically impossible to get every single person on earth to like you. If you are living your life truly free, making your own choices, and acting on your own definition of contribution, you're gonna rub some people the wrong way. It is just inevitable. So the absolutely crucial point here is that being disliked isn't a failure. It is the ultimate proof that you are living freely. Embracing the reality that some people just won't like you is the only path to true, lasting happiness. So you now know that your emotions are actually tools, your past doesn't dictate your future, and seeking approval is nothing but a trap. You have the power right now to choose contribution over competition. It just requires a little bit of courage. So, what will you do with your newfound freedom? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this sparked some serious curiosity for you, and I honestly can't wait to see how you apply this philosophy to your own journey.